Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, everybody. Welcome to this week's Kabbalah Shabbat on Zoom, and it gives me great pleasure to invite Morris to give a Devar Torah.
Thank you very much. Of the 150 Psalms in the canon, 15 of these, Psalms 120 to 134, known as the Ma'alot Psalms, or depending on the Siddur, songs of ascents, songs of steps, songs for going up to worship, pilgrim songs, or songs of degrees. The root meaning of the word ascents is Allah, to go up. The frequent references to Jerusalem and Zion in this collection of psalms may account for their superscriptions. Since Jerusalem sits on a hill, no matter where one comes from, one always goes up to Jerusalem. Thus, pilgrims on the way to Jerusalem to celebrate the Chagim may have sung the songs of ascents as they travelled along. Others speculate that the ascents referred to in Psalms 120 to 134 are the steps of the temple, which Ezekiel calls ascents. The Mishnah states that 15 steps led from the court of the women to the court of the Israelites, corresponding to these 15 psalms. And upon them, the Levites used to sing, and the Levites on harps and on lyres, and with cymbals and with trumpets, and with other instruments of music without number, upon 15 steps leading down to the court of the Israelites from the women's court, corresponding to the 15 songs of ascent in the Psalms. Upon them, the Levites used to stand with musical instruments and sing hymns. Although these 15 psalms are more likely to come from a variety of times and places in the life of ancient Egypt, the messages of the collection as a whole is that Jerusalem is the place for the coming together of the people of Hashem, the celebration, the commemorations, and for acknowledging the goodness of and help of Hashem. Psalms 120 to 134 are prefixed by the term Shir HaMalot. Rather, only 14 of these psalms bear this prefix. The remaining one is prefixed by the words Shir LaMalot. That is Psalm 121. Since October the 7th, it, along with Psalm 130, have been recited at the end of our services. What then is the difference? Shir HaMalot means a song of ascents. However, Shir LaMalot means a song to the ascent. Psalm 121 is an individual hymn of thanksgiving on the approach to Jerusalem. The hills of Jerusalem are in view, and Hashem guides the pilgrim's feet. There are two parts to the psalm. First part, verses 1 and 2, states a firm trust in Hashem, and the second part, verses 3 to 8, is an assurance that Hashem will indeed guard the pilgrims, thus dividing the psalm into two sections, corresponding to the two voices of the psalm. The pilgrim asks in question in verse 1, while approaching Jerusalem, I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where will come my help? Then promptly answers his own question with, my help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and the earth. The word help, ezer, derived from a verbal root that means to help, to free, to come to help, is a powerfully simple word. It's used in Genesis 2:18, where we read, Then Hashem said, It is not good that the human should be alone. I will make him a helper as his partner. Ezer occurs in its noun form some 65 times in the Torah, and in most cases it refers to the help of Hashem in some life-threatening situation. Thus the word ezer conveys the idea of help that is a strong presence, an aid without which humankind would be unprotected and vulnerable to all sorts of unsettling situations. Verses 3 to 8, the response to the pilgrim, offers words of assurance. In these verses, keep appears 6 times, always in reference to Hashem. Thus, while the pilgrim refers to Hashem as my help, the response refers to one who keeps. The word keep is derived from a verbal root that means to protect, to guard, to watch over, to take care of. Although in its rendition in a number of the English translation as keep, the word conveys a more active concept. The Lord does not just keep the pilgrim in the sense of providing space for the pilgrim, but the Lord guards, protects, and watches over the pilgrim, fending off those who seek out the pilgrim or who would do the pilgrim harm. In verses 3 and 4, the respondent further declares that the Lord will not slumber and will not sleep. The sleeping deity is a literary motive found in numerous texts in the Near East. The words of the Psalm 121 stand in sharp contrast to these texts, accusing Hashem of sleeping, thus not paying attention to the cries of the pilgrim. Verse 5, the pilgrim is assured that the Lord is a shade. The word often occurs 10 times in the Psalter, often a part of the phrase, the shadow of your wings, and implies the protection provided a mother bird to her chicks. In verses 6 and 7, the pilgrim receives further assurance that neither the sun in the day nor the moon by night will strike them. Verse 2, maker of heaven and earth, and verse 6, by day and by night, are known as merisms, word pairs that summarize the total by naming its opposite boundaries. Verse 8 adds another merism. You're going out and you're coming in, indicating that the Lord will protect the pilgrims every moment. This phrase apparently refers to a typical city life in the ancient Israel, in which workers left the protective confines of the walled city in the morning to carry out field and pasture work, and returned in the evening to shelter the city walls. Digressing for a moment, the concept of asking for Hashem's help echoes throughout the generations and years. One parallel approach was written by another Jew and sung by a second Jew. Bridge Over Troubled Waters expresses the same request for help and protection as Psalm 121. The line, like a bridge over troubled water, is a metaphor for somebody living through troubled times. The phrase, bridge over troubled waters, in this case being a metaphor for Hashem. Returning to Psalm 121, it provides words of assurance that if the faithful fix their eyes squarely on the source of their help, then Hashem, the maker of the heavens and the earth, who does not slumber and will indeed guard and watch over, protect and be a shade. If we take our eyes off the source of our assurance, when we look onto other mountains for help, then the mundane, the ordinary, the sun, the moon, the malicious things find us and strike us. Thus, may we all remember to lift up our eyes to the mountains. As I've indicated, this is a psalm recited by an individual directly to Hashem, asking for protection and oversight for a journey. It is perhaps no coincidence, then, that this direct conversation is known as Psalm 121. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Morris, and thank you very much. Yes, any chance we get to do a one-to-one with Hashem is always looking upwards. Thank you very much. Now,